It's time for Ask Mike Mondays. Mike answers one listener's question every week. Here's Michael Becker and Paul Peebles.
Welcome to Ask Mike Mondays. I'm your host, Paul Peebles, National Underwriter for Old Capital. And joining me today, the man himself, the governor, the head of Beckerville Corporation of America, for a better tomorrow, as they say, Mr. Michael Becker.
Hey, Paul.
How are you?
Things are going pretty good. What's new in the Old Capital world?
Well, we're just loving life over in Old Capital. No doubt about that. We're trying to hit another $1 billion this year. So it's middle of the year. So we are out running with the big dogs. And, if you're looking for a large apartment loan, come see your friends over at Old Capital. We appreciate that. Don't forget, 24th, 25th of October, come to Texas any which way you can. Old Capital Multifamily Conference. Again, we're going to announce this at the end of July, who our keynote speaker is. If you remember last year, who was it last year, Michael?
It was Captain Comeback, Roger Staubach.
Fantastic. Mr. Roger Staubach was our speaker last year. I think he told some great stories about being in real estate. People always forget, not only did he get the Heisman Trophy and win a bunch of Super Bowls, but he was the king of real estate here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and played football, but did real estate, didn't he?
You did, yeah. Very successful. Started his tenant rep business and sold it for $400 million to JLL about a decade ago, and he just retired from there.
Yeah, so he talked in great detail about the success. So we are looking forward to our keynote speaker to be announced sometime later this month going into July. So fantastic, great speaker. You'll really enjoy our keynote speaker. Can't wait for you to come see us. Come to the House of Blues. We rented the entire House of Blues on October 24th, 25th. 24th being cocktail night. Cocktail night. Meet some of your new partners, new sponsors and transactions. Let's all get together and I'll buy you a drink. So we're looking
if they want to get tickets for that, can they buy tickets already?
Online. So oldcapitalpodcast.com, oldcapitalpodcast.com. Go on there to RSVP to get your tickets to that wonderful event.
And I'm assuming the cheapest are going to be right now, right? They're only going to go up.
They are the cheapest right now. So get your tickets as we speak. Michael Becker, as you know, smartest guy in the room, manages 5,300 apartment units, Michael.
And climbing, yep.
Unbelievable. $670 million in assets under management right now.
That's right, yeah.
Over $1 billion in transactions closed. 7,500 units bought.
Yep.
How do you sleep, my friend?
Like a baby, right?
That is unbelievable. So, Michael, he was the former banker for a large national bank, did a great job over there, saw the opportunity to become an owner. And so he's gone from a loaner of money to owner of real estate. So we appreciate his insight. So let's get into Ask Mike Mondays. Mike, help. You have motivated me to buy apartments. What are the steps? Love the podcast. Thanks.
Yeah, so what I thought maybe we could do here is kind of do maybe a 4 to 5 part series where we kind of start with the basics of someone trying to break into the business as a sponsor and kind of really go through maybe 4 or 5 kind of main topics. So Paul, maybe you could list off some of the topics and we'll start with the first one on this one and do other ones subsequent weeks.
So we're going to start off at number 1. We'll end on number 5. So number 1, we're going to be talking about getting into the business. But you got to be educated first before you get into the business. So you know what the heck is going on. You don't want to be taken advantage of. You want to know what the rules and regulations are. You want to know what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what's a good deal, what's not a good deal, what are the areas to stay out of, what are the parts of the United States you should invest in. So education is number 1. Number 2 is how do you find the deals? How do you actually physically find the properties that are available out there? So you want to build a relationship with a broker. Now, these brokers are going to represent their listing agents. They're going to represent the seller. They're typically not going to represent you, but you want to start to build relationships. We want to try to help you figure out what the best way is to build those relationships. Number 3, show me the money. Show me the money. So it's like in Jerry Maguire, you have to start off with some cash and kind of figure out that this is not a no cash, no credit type of business. You have to have cash yourself, but you want to find out how you can go out and raise money. So Michael will share some tips on raising money and having the capacity to actually go out and buy deals. Number 4, working the deal. Let's say that you push out an LOI, letter of intent to buy a property, and by God, it's been awarded to you. Now what do you do? How do you put this deal together? Who do you need to talk to? Is there a checklist? Is there due diligence that you have to figure out? So Michael is going to kind of lay out what he has done in the past, and he'll share that information with you. Number 5, closing the transaction. We want to see what it's like to close a transaction. We'll listen to Michael. He'll tell you a little bit about how to close a transaction, and then post-closing, what to expect. how to tie all that information in from some of your vendors, some of your third party, let's say property manager, or if you're self-managing, how to tie in your new employees and making sure that they understand what's going on, what the rules are, and how not to get sued so much by your tenants. So we'll talk a little bit about fair housing and some of the things that you have to pay attention to in post-closing the transaction. Now that we bring in as the lender 75-80% of the money. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about what to expect after you close from your loan servicer. So some great topics. So we're going to help the person who cried, "Help me." So first thing, Michael, why is education so important in this business?
It's really everything, because you're dealing with lots and lots of money. It's not a little bit of money. And if you're a syndicator, then you're not only dealing with your money, you're dealing with other people's money. So the level and care and responsibility you need to take for other people's money is greater than what the risk you're willing to take with your own money in most cases. So I think that's every reputable and, good sponsor out there kind of is more fearful of losing someone else's money than their own. And if not, then you shouldn't be doing this business. I think that's a bad character to have if you don't have that kind of healthy fear of failure a little bit. So, when you're starting out, you're not talking about a little bit of dollars, you're talking about a lot of dollars. So even if you're starting out with a, $3 to $5 million multifamily project or $10 million multifamily project, it's not like buying a little single family house where you're risking $1,000 in earnest money. I mean, you're risking tens of thousands, if not into the six figures of earnest money, and you're putting up, $25,000 in lender deposits and paying your lawyers and your inspection companies and things like that. So, you're having tens of thousands of dollars of economic damage if you kind of screw up along the way. So, being educated is certainly critical. I mean, we've talked many, many times, about kind of the ways to get educated. I was fortunate enough that I had a professional background where all I did all day, every day was underwrite and evaluate and make loans on a multifamily property. So I had a lot of repetition looking at deals and got paid to learn the business. And most people don't have that. So the easiest and best way there's a lot of reputable investment clubs or mentors out there. I'm a big proponent of that. So, do your research, find some, get set up with them and just go ahead and simply pay someone to come in and buy and educate you on how to do this business correctly. So I think if you spend that kind of money, is money well spent when you're out there learning what not to do, what to do. And, also if you do it right, you're in a group and you can get educated and you can network with other people that have similar goals. So you can find a lot of what you need in a lot of those rooms, whether that is, someone to help co-sponsor a deal with you, someone to help maybe front some of the pursuit costs. If you don't have all the money to front the $100,000 earnest money, maybe you can partner with someone that can help you do that, as well as you maybe find some passive investors, or maybe you need a bigger balance sheet to get approved on the loan. So a lot of those places kind of have some pretty good ecosystems where you can pull your resources together to get, collectively you can do these larger deals where maybe on your own you can't. So I'm a big proponent of, simply just finding reputable groups and education groups. That's a good way of doing it, and then also if you're kind of young in the business, maybe you can kind of partner with someone that's got a little bit more experience and, join as a, Paul always likes the airplane analogy. So kind of be the KP or be kind of the co-pilot to someone else's pilot, where you can kind of come along and sign on the note to help them get qualified if they need a balance sheet, and, maybe divide and conquer some of the work up and learn from someone that's already done a handful of deals. That's also a good way of going about it as well, Paul.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that as somebody that may not have the experience level, but you want to partner up with somebody that may have the experience level. That's a great way too. And if you're a youngster, let's say you're 19, 20, or 25 years old, somewhere, in the young 20s, your time to a certain extent is free, is volunteer to be a partner, just to understand a little bit about what's going on, not necessarily to be in the deal, but just kind of sit shotgun into the transaction and see how the things are done. And that is a very valuable piece, is kind of walk through and talk with somebody that's been successful doing this, that's done it 3 or 4 times. I think what happens is some of these educational groups, you got to be careful. The guy who's done one deal and calls himself an expert on it. So, I mean, you want to look for a group or a mentor that's done it 5, 6, 7, 10 times and go talk to that person. So the one time millionaire that flipped houses 2 years ago, now they're doing their own multifamily stuff, and they've only had 1 or 2 success stories. Everyone's been successful the last 5 years. I want to talk to somebody that's been doing it for a long period of time, that's seen a little bit of the rough things, gone through some of the rough patches, and can kind of instruct me what to be aware of. because you don't know what you don't know, and you need to talk to somebody that's actually had the experience of doing it. So,
and I did get a call a few months back for someone who was 19, 20 years old, kind of in college or just out of college. I can't remember exactly, and trying to break into the business. And if you're serious about it and you're young and you're not establishing your career, you don't have obligations, go work at a bank, be a banker, loaning money on this is a great way to learn. Or maybe go be an analyst that work for a investment sales group, get like an investment sales training program. And that's a great way to see a lot of pitches that way if you don't already have an established career.
I think that's an excellent idea. Mike and I came out of the banking business. We were paid to analyze deals and make decisions and kind of figure out who did well and who didn't do well, what areas were good areas, what areas were bad areas that we wouldn't want to put our money into. So, having somebody else pay for your education is definitely a big thing. So if you're thinking about getting into multifamily in the basic levels, get in on the banking side, have them pay for you to learn the business, be going through their management trainee deals and be able to be in front of other opportunities that are around this area.
Yeah, that's right. Just if you go be a banker, you can't be too conservative. That was always the hardest part. Paul and I are some of the rare people that are able to get out and go on the risk side of the business because being a banker, you're so risk averse. But that, or like I said, go work for an investment sales broker as an analyst, and then kind of maybe a junior broker and kind of work your way up. There's a lot of good education, a lot of real world experiences you can get by doing that. So if you're really young, you don't have any money, you got a lot of time, and not a lot of obligations kind of tying you down. I think that might be a good way of seriously accelerating your career path.
How about learning some stuff on the internet or participating in some of these groups? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a when you're starting out, there's a lot of free is always good. So either you can get a pretty good education for $5 and late fines at the library too. You can go, and if you don't have a lot of money, there's a lot of basic books you can start with. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Listen to our podcast, obviously. I think we're pretty straightforward, no nonsense, kind of from guys that actually out there doing business. You're talking to a banker that does $1 billion in loans a year. And, we have over 650 million assets under management. So we're not kind of like the wannabe guys that have done a deal or two, and we've done dozens and dozens of deals as principals, and Paul's done thousands of loans, if not tens of thousands of loans in his career. So
5,700 apartment loans.
Yeah, so it's just a real something great. So I think the education on that you can get by listening to podcasts, by reading books, that's certainly a great base. I think getting the mentor is a great thing, and there's a difference in my life. I kind of realized there's a difference between book knowledge and seat knowledge. It's great to have that base level education, but you're going to learn a hell of a lot once you're out there actually doing it. And you get a couple lumps and get kicked in the teeth a few times. You really kind of understand these principles and lessons from that you learn once you actually kind of experience the repercussion of not listening to what you should have done the right way.
And I would also say too is that these people are not going to come to you. You got to go to them to build those relationships. Go to conferences, go to the meetups, go to, Marcus and Millichap's stuff in the multiple cities that they have their conferences in. Try to talk with some people within those groups that you'll find at that place that, pick their brain, take them out to lunch, take them out for coffee, kind of figure out what they're doing, how they became successful, and just listen to their stories. Also to try to find some of the old timers that have been in this business and try to pick their brain. There's a couple of guys here in Dallas that have been around for 35 or 40 years. That's the guys that you want to kind of figure out what the history is. I would try to stay away from the guys that just have done it for a year or two because they just don't know. They have no idea. So some of these mentoring groups that are out there are not their weight in worth of salt, but some of them are. Some of them you pay a fee, and it may be a large fee, but what's good about that is they'll actually help you raise capital down the road. So there may be a lot of people interested about learning, actually going in and learning about multifamily. They don't necessarily want to run their own deal, but they just want to participate by putting in passive money maybe into your deal. So a lot of these groups offer the ability to have what's called an ecosystem where you can go into there after you've been educated and you get some knowledge to tap their equity that they're providing. So you're going to pay a fee, but it's probably the cheapest way to try to raise money. Michael, any feedback on that?
I think that's pretty good. I think it's admirable if you're getting out and you're trying to get started, do all the free and inexpensive stuff to kind of start. But when you're really ready to take it up, I think, investing in your education, getting a mentor if you don't have it, or, if you're really young and you have a lot of flexibility, try to be strategic about the career path you focus, that, you can learn something in your 20s that you could take advantage of in your 30s. I wish I could go back in time and tell you it was an intentional decision when I was in my 20s to go to become a banker in the commercial real estate department. But, just kind of dumb blind luck and just observing what's going on in the world around me, realizing I was on the wrong side of all those deals, kind of fell into this little bit of ass backwards, I guess.
All right. Again, Michael Becker, smartest guy in the room, also with SPI. Again, SPI stands for what?
Yes.
What do you guys do?
Yeah. So if people want to find out more information about us, you simply go to a company's website, which is www.spiadvisor.com. That's SPI, like spyadvisor.com. There's a contact us form. Fill that out. I'm always happy to have a 10 to 15 minute telephone call with listeners of the podcast. And SPI stands for Strategic Property Investment. And really what we do is we just try to put together high quality real estate opportunities. We'll go out and syndicate capital and put these deals together, or we sometimes joint venture with some people that have maybe a little bit larger checks to go out and write. Typical story, Paul, is if someone's got a $5 million plus kind of 1031 exchange, they want to come to Texas and they don't know anybody and they want to get some help breaking in the market. We've been pretty successful over the last many years helping several people get into there. So if you want to find out more information or strike up a conversation, I would certainly welcome you to just go to the spiadvisor.com, fill that contact us form out. I'm always happy to have the telephone call with listeners of the podcast.
Sounds great. Again, the smartest guy in the room, Mr. Michael Becker. I'm Paul Peebles. Have a great day.